All right. Well, hey, it's 10:03. I'm going to jump in here and just welcome everyone who's on the call. There will be a few more people jumping on board, but we're going to get started because 47 minutes goes by fast. But thank you all for being here. Today, we're going to explore the power of storytelling and specifically how you can leverage your fundraising through storytelling. But this can apply to all dynamics of life. If you're a communicator, it's good to understand the power of story, whether you're a teacher, a parent in sales, if you're a fundraiser, if you're a CEO, board member. Story is just a wonderful way to communicate a message. And we're going to jump into that. Here's a little bit of a roadmap of where we'll be going this morning. We kind of got 4 keys that we'll unpack: defining the why, tapping into the power, developing your story, and telling your story. So we really want everyone to be able to walk away, maybe not from the next 45 minutes, but at least over the next couple of days of having a story in hand that you can use to communicate your message. I'm gonna throw a couple mission statements up on the screen. If you would like to share in the chat who you think this organization is or what you think their mission looks like when they're fulfilling it, like as far as boots on the ground, what's going on with this organization when they're fulfilling their mission. So the first one is this: we strive to develop character, coping, and connection for kids battling life-threatening illnesses. I'm not going to say the organizational name, but if you know the organization, or if you can give us an idea of what you think is going on when they're fulfilling the mission, type that into the chat box real quick. As you're doing that, I'm going to go on to the next mission statement. Mission statement number 2. This one's 3 words: good, done, right. So what's the organization, or what is the activity that's going on when this mission is being fulfilled? Good, done, right. And then here's the third: counsel and resource development. Do you know the organization, or what activity is being done when this organization is fulfilling the mission? So again, feel free to throw them up in the chat there. I'll look at them. We got some organizational names and some great guesses, some unknown. Let's go back to the first one. We strive to develop character, coping, and connection for kids battling life-threatening illnesses. Wonderful mission. I love this organization. Again, due to confidentiality, I won't share the name. But here's what's going on when they fulfill their mission. They do camps and retreats for sick kids. So they help kids get out in the wilderness, have a good time, go swimming, have activities with other children who are in their same shoes. Wonderful organization. They help kids who are stuck in a hospital feel normal for a week, do normal 12-year-old activities. So that's what's going on. You can see there's a disconnect between the mission statement and the actual activities that are going on. Okay. The second mission statement we looked at.
Good. Real quick, Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting that a number of people identified St. Jude, and in terms of the impact, there would be a lot of similarity between St. Jude and this organization. So yeah, somebody's doing some good branding out there, and somebody else, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, is leveraging.
Yeah. And maybe they have mutual clients, probably mutual children.
Yeah, it could be.
Good, done, right. Oh, Corey, did you have to Google that? I should have said no Googling if you guys didn't already know that. But Wendy's, the classic fast food restaurant, good, done, right. What's good? How do they fulfill their mission though? They make hamburgers and French fries. So if maybe they did good branding or good communicating if you guys knew Wendy's, but good, done, right. There's a little bit of a disconnect when we talk about their mission versus what their actual product is or what they're providing. It should be good hamburgers done right or something like that. Good French fries done right. The third one: counsel and resource development. Good terminology, good explanation if you're somewhat on the inside of resource development industry, but this is the motto or mission of Stroman and Associates. And I throw us in there, and I'm picking on Wendy's, I'm picking on us. But does this really explain what we do? I'll share a story later that I think further expands. But the point is, so many times when we communicate our mission, we use a mission statement. And quite often the mission statement in and of itself is not enough to communicate our mission, our passion, what we're actually about. And it's so easy when people ask me, oh, Stroman and Associates, I mean, we got that question already. Who are you guys? What do you do? If I were to say, oh, we provide counsel and resource development, to most people, that doesn't mean a whole lot. And I'm going to guess, and I don't know everyone's organization who's on the call, but I'm going to guess if you were to give your mission statement as an answer to the question, what do you do, or what is your organization about, it might be a bit vaguer. There might be a disconnect to what you're actually accomplishing through your mission. And we're going to explore today how we can use story to bridge that gap and communicate more clearly, and not just in general, but also when it comes to fundraising as well. So point number one, or to storytelling, I'm going to hand this over to Kent, is we're going to start with defining the why.
Yeah. And so I think we got to give Christy some points, because she got the last one right. Curious to know how that came about. Christy, maybe you can fill us in a little bit later, or put it in the chat box. So define the why. And real quick question, actually, I'm going to do this with an old-fashioned show of hands on the screen. So before we actually do that, we've been at this for a little bit. Can I have everybody just put your hands up in front of the camera, and let's do some really aggressive physical activity. Ready? Come on, Larry. Push-ups. Yeah, we can do this. Wiggle the fingers. Okay, hands down. So quick question. I know that the link for the Simon Sinek Start With Why video that went out to everybody in advance. Did anybody have a chance to view that video? Maybe you've done it in the past. You're just real quick show of hands. Simon Sinek Start With Why. Okay, got several hands up. Well, if you haven't done that, I just really want to encourage you to go back to that. And I'm going to stop sharing for a minute just so we can see each other. But a couple of thoughts. If we're going to tell a story, the most important part of the story isn't the what, the when, the how, the who, the how many, how often, but it really is the why. And I want to ask for those of you who have gone through Simon Sinek's material, real quick, in the chat box, just type one takeaway. What's one thing that you would say that you have taken away, or you can take away from Simon's whole message? Put that in the chat box. While you're doing so, I'm just going to share mine. And for me, one of the biggest takeaways that I have from Simon's influence, and he's just so good in what he does, but that is the importance of emotions in storytelling. And part of the reason that I find that to be so crucial is that my background is finance. And I mean, it's natural for me to go with the numbers. But the reality is that what was somebody said, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's really kind of a contrast between the rational and the emotional. And so one of the things as it relates to storytelling, it's so crucial for us to be able to tap into the emotions. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later on, but people make decisions with their emotions. And then we use reason to support the decision that we've made emotionally. And so when Simon talks about starting with why would a story matter? Why would an action be crucial? Excuse me. He's really underscoring that whole idea that we connect with emotions, and then we support it with reason. I'm just curious, real quick. Let's see, what are some of the things people put down in the chat box? Wow, really good stuff here. People align with those who believe the way they do. Great point, Shelley. Thank you. Aaron says starting with why keeps me focused on the end goal. Love that. Milford says start with heart. Absolutely. And so the idea is that we want to start with why. And once we have the why, then it's easy for us to build out those other pieces that we talked about, the what, the how many, the who, and so forth. There's a couple of things I want to put on the screen real quick. And this first one just kind of hurts my heart because I am a recovering accountant. But it says numbers numb, but stories store. So if we really want to have our message, our story, have an impact, it's got to be remembered. It's the story that stores up. And so, I could ask you how old you were on September 11th, 2001. And that would just be a number. But on the other hand, if I ask you, where were you on September 11th, 2001? What were your hopes, dreams, and fears at that moment when you heard really crucial news coming across whatever channel those messages were coming across? The story would be an emotional, impactful, unforgettable story, and the numbers would easily fall away. So here's a number I'm going to share that hopefully will find some traction. Stories make data more memorable, right? So we could say, yeah, we kind of made the point. Stories make data more memorable. How much more? Look at this, 22 times more. Stories make data 22 times more memorable. So if there's some important data that you want somebody to remember, be sure that you wrap that up in a story rather than just laying it out there. If I gave you the name 22 or the number 22, 30 minutes from now, you probably couldn't even recall the number. In a little bit, I may come back and ask you, I'm curious, if we tell a story rather than just give data, how much more memorable is that? Everybody on the call is going to tell me what? 22 times. Thank you, Shelley. So, so what we want to do then is to tap into the power of storytelling. So real quick, the power of storytelling, there's persuasion, there is engagement, and there's memorable. I want to just real quickly give us four aspects to the power of storytelling, or what I call story power. Our story, if it's going to be impactful, if it's going to be memorable, if it's going to make a difference with the audience, regardless of who the audience is, then here are four key aspects. The story should stir the heart. Think about the difference between just touching the head or stirring the heart, or to take it even deeper, stirring the soul. Does my story, when I tell my story, whether it's about me on a personal level, whether it's about my organization on a professional level, or from a fundraising standpoint, the stories that we tell, do they stir the heart? And one of the ways that we know that the heart is stirred, and that is when the face starts leaking, when the eyes start leaking. We call it tears. But don't be afraid of emotion and allowing our story. I mean, what you guys do every day is impactful. If we had an opportunity to go around the room, we would hear some really powerful stories. I think about the work that Milford Jenkins does at the Oklahoma 4-H Foundation. And on a year in, year out basis, month in, month out, day in, day out, they're developing leadership within youth. And that's kind of sterile. But if given the opportunity, Milford could tell us a story of one young person, how 4-H changed their life, and what the impact of that is on families, on communities, and on a state. So number one, stirring the heart. Number two, pique the imagination. If we've got something obvious, look for a way to take it beyond the obvious into the imaginary. Think about some of your experiences as a child. If I ask you to tell me about your hero in the fourth grade, you would probably pick a television character or perhaps a comic book character, and you would relate to things that you were imagining as you looked at the real and thought about what was yet to become real. Okay, pique the imagination. Number three is to leverage suspense. Have you noticed how dull you think a movie is when from the opening scene, you know how it's going to turn out? Okay, but who's watched Sixth Sense? You know, one of the reasons people love Sixth Sense so much is because at the end you find out there's something that was going on the entire time and I was oblivious to it. So there was a suspense factor. And then unexpected twist. Have fun with unexpected twists. In the storytelling, utilize these four story power elements to leverage your story and to develop your own story. And so, Aaron, why don't you just kind of walk us through key number three?
Yeah, so we're going to get really practical here. Hopefully you got the PDF that we emailed out. If not, put a note down. I can get you this, but this is a very practical way to develop your story if you struggle with that. So what we will do here is I just want to go through some of the main parts of this to explain how to use it. And then we're not going to take time today just because of the time limitation. But I think by the end of the day, you could take this and have a great story developed that you can go out and utilize for whatever purpose you choose. First of all, you notice at the very top, it says, craft a story that is true, inspirational, personal, and appropriate. First of all, make sure your story is true. Don't lie about it. Make sure your story is inspirational. There are a bunch of true stories that are just kind of boring. You don't want a boring story. You want it to be somewhat inspirational, somewhat moving. You want it to be more personal than not. So the closer you are connected to a story, there might be a lot of stories going on in your organizations that you're distanced from, but the more personal it is to you, the more it's going to convey that emotion and that connection. And then fourth is just appropriate. Sometimes in some of the work that we do, we have to use confidentiality when it comes to certain clients or people we might be telling the story about to make it appropriate. Use a fictitious name. You want to keep it true, but obviously there's some appropriateness you need to apply to the story as well. And then underneath that, it says expressed in outsider language. Make sure that your story can be understood by people who are not in your fine niche industry, right? Within the whole nonprofit sector, even, there are so many subcategories of the work we do. Sometimes we use language that other people don't understand. I come from a ministry background, the Christian ministry, working in a church, and there's a whole language that church people use that no one else uses. And so I've had to learn how to use outsider language to convey stuff that people outside the church don't understand. We all need to do that as well. That's why counsel and resource development doesn't really mean anything to anyone outside of fundraisers. So I need to learn how to use outsider language. Now there's the three C's of a story that really craft together a big story. So, and again, these are the three columns that you'll see here. Context. So who is the person that you help? Give some context to who you help and what that person is like, who they are. Second one is conflict. Like Kent was talking about movies. A great movie has some conflict. Okay. So the Avengers have to save the world from Thanos destroying the universe. Okay. So what problem do you solve? Where is the conflict here? Kids are stuck in hospital rooms in their maybe isolated bedrooms. the conflict is they don't get to live normal lives. They don't get to have fun outside. So there's a conflict for one of the examples we used earlier. Third one, the conclusion. How do you solve that conflict? The conflict isn't enough in itself, but what is the problem that you're solving, and what does that look like? What's the story when your organization fulfills the mission? So give that conclusion. Now, when you put those three elements in a row, you have the components for a great story. Again, halfway down, you'll see in the blue box, there's some different ways that you can apply some stories. Vision casting, fundraising, expressing gratitude, relaying data points, all great ways to utilize story in communication. So in the bottom box below, you can take some notes as you're writing out stories. Oh, here's a story I might want to use for answering the question, what does your organization do? Fill out that might be one story. Here's another one. Here's how someone like you has partnered with us to make this possible. Share the story. So this might be a potential donor. This might be a potential volunteer, maybe a potential board member. But when you can share a story, have someone in their position has engaged with your organization, it's going to go a lot further than just giving them a job description, or, hey, just giving the data or statistics that go with that. Third thing, a call to action. If you want people to actually do something, if you're doing more than just communicating information, but you want people to take action, there's a great way to integrate story in that. So other people can join in on the movement of the mission. And then finally, I put down, thanks for making this situation possible. This child got to go to camp, and talk about a real child who went to a camp for the week and got to experience life as a normal 12-year-old. And he hasn't been swimming, but he got to swim. He got to go on a boat and play some games. And he hasn't done that for 18 months, but because of your donation, this child was able to do that. Telling the story, showing a picture goes so much further than just saying, thank you for your generous donation of $5,000. Okay, it's right. Saying thank you for $5,000 is appropriate. It's true. But when you can attach it to a story, it means so much more. So someone earlier asked, who are you guys? Stroman and Associates. What are you doing? What are you guys about? I don't know you. So let me answer that with a story. There is a young man, I'm going to call him Carson. That's not his real name, but Carson, very passionate. He got involved with a nonprofit organization that he loves. He actually wants to dedicate the rest of his life to it. He told us that, because I would like to never make a career move for the rest of my life. He is a development director. So he helps the organization get money. He does fundraising, but the problem is he never took a fundraising class when he went to college. I don't think there is such a thing. He doesn't know how to interact with major donors. He gets a little intimidated when he does get a sit down or phone call with a major donor, just because of the financial difference. He's not sure how to interact. He freezes up a little bit. But he went to one of our trainings. It was over 2 days, 3.5 hours each day. And he walked away with tools in his tool belt where he felt comfortable in his own skin, engaging major donors in conversation. And he got the tool set on how to use some very basic trade tools, like a gift chart, like a call team, having a peer and a pro go along with him to the prospect, like a case statement. He had these things, but he wasn't quite sure how to use them. And he walked away going, oh my gosh, these are actually useful. And he's a super smart guy. He was already successful, but we helped Carson just add to his proficiency, add to his professionalism, grow in his leadership, and really expand his thinking. What he thought was a major donor is now not a major donor. His sights are set so much higher. And that's one of the things that we do. So that particular training was called the Asking Academy. And Carson went to the Asking Academy. We wanted to share the Asking Academy with you, because we have a couple versions of the Asking Academy that we do. One's a live in-person event that's great for teams. We'll talk about that later. Other one's a virtual option that's great for people who enjoy Zoom, great for individuals. But we love helping people win at life, grow in their career and leadership. And ultimately, we know that's an investment in nonprofit organizations who are achieving wonderful missions. And we like to see those organizations win. So that's a little story. See how I use story there to convey our mission, what we do. Now, here's key number 4. You got to tell your story. Developing your story isn't enough. You got to make sure you articulate it. And just like all things, the more that you can practice this, the better you'll become at it. So here's my encouragement for you. First of all, figure out what your story is. So you have the worksheet, you can develop that. You might come up with a couple different stories for a couple different situations. But then I want to encourage you to begin to share your story. Maybe it's with a coworker or colleague or friend, but eventually you'll want to start using your story in real life to convey information, to share your vision, your mission, your call to action. And we would love to hear it as well. We don't have time on the webinar today to go through and hear everyone's story, but here's a way that we can come together as a community and encourage each other in the storytelling. And it's and this is kind of your homework, or what I'll encourage you to do. But take your cell phone and do a little selfie video, and whether it's whatever social media platform you decide, but tell your friends, hey, some of you wonder what I do for a living, what I do professionally. Let me tell you about Johnny. And Johnny's this, and go into your story and cast your vision, telling a story. Start with social media. And here's what I'll do. I would love one just to watch it. So if you could tag me, tag the business, we'd love to be a part of that. But I also like to help you spread your message as well. So if you can tag us and give us permission when you share your story on social media, we'd love to repost it on our social media and just give you props, and it gets you a little awareness for yourself and your organization, and to see how that story grows and how it will shape and move people in their hearts to come by you and support you in your mission. So that's the little bit of assignment or homework that I'll give you. And this, what are we doing here? We're just taking steps. We're kind of going into the zero entry pool, getting yourself acclimated to using story to communicate our mission. Kent, you want to talk a little bit about how to tell your story?
Yeah. So thanks, Aaron. How to tell your story. And let me first say that we're not walking into this with the presumption that nobody knows how to tell stories, right? But the purpose today really is how to leverage your fundraising through storytelling. And so to the extent that each of us can improve, and by the way, I'm here today because I want to improve my storytelling skills. I can't say it, but that's what I mean. I want to improve my storytelling skills. And that's our desire for each of us on today's webinar. So real quick, I'm just going to give 6 steps on how that we can do even a better job of telling our stories. So 6 steps, if you're taking notes or if you want to do a screenshot, here we go. Step number 1 is to write it out verbatim. And, this may seem a little bit elementary, but I want to tell you, in my own storytelling, it has helped so much when I, first of all, given my brain permission to think about the story in a more specific way. And then secondly, when my brain gives my hand the assignment to actually write it down. So write out your story verbatim. And then here's maybe the hardest part of it. Step number 2, throw away half of the words, right? So look for a way to delete words, but keep the meaning. How can I deliver meaning in fewer words? And we hear this phrase, less is more. Well, in storytelling, absolutely. If we use too many words, if we talk too long, use too much time, people get lost in the words and they miss out on the beautiful story. So step number 2 is delete the words. Number 3 then is come back in and add a few more words back in. What kind of words? Adjectives. We could say it was night. No, it was a dark and stormy night, right? I was doing this thing and it hurt. What if we said I was in excruciating pain? Okay, so by using an adjective to give color to a word that has meaning. Now it enriches the meaning. So number 3, add an adjective. Number 4, practice. Okay, these are both hard. So first of all, practice by yourself. Has anybody else done this? Do you know the excruciating pain of standing in front of a mirror on a dark and stormy night, telling your own story? Yeah, Philip's got his hand up. So, I mean, seriously, if you listen to yourself, vocalize your story, you're going to pick up on things that seem to make sense in your brain, but they did not make sense when they came out of your mouth. So after you do that, then here's another thing, and Aaron already mentioned it. Practice with a friend, a coworker. I mean, have some fun with this. I'm working on improving my storytelling. If I buy you lunch, could I share my story and then ask for your feedback? So practice it first of all alone, and then with a friend. Listen to the feedback, and then based on those experiences, revise. Make some changes. Make your story better, and then memorize. So write, delete, add, practice, revise, memorize. And in so doing, you're going to find how quickly your story is distilled. It's something that is packaged. It's not sounding like a package. This is your package. It's only for you. And as you master your storytelling, you're going to be amazed at how quickly other people are going to connect at a much deeper level than what you've experienced to date. So I love this quote. I'm going to put it on the screen. It says, "The human voice is the most beautiful instrument of all, but it is the most difficult to play." I mean, think about this. Richard Strauss, he knew what he was talking about, difficult to play instruments. But think about the beautiful instrument that is your human voice. And it's difficult to play, but it's so beautiful when we master the difficulty and incorporate that around the whole idea of storytelling. So we've got I think about 12 minutes left, and as we close, we got several things to touch on. In a minute, we're going to ask everybody to share what's one takeaway that you can use, and in the meantime, Rob, I feel like we've met before, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around when and where that was. I've got 2 or 3 possibilities, but would you mind putting in the something in the chat box? And maybe we've never met before, and it's just my imagination. But I'd love a reminder on that. So here's a pledge to act. In a little while, we're going to wrap up 47 minutes together. My hope is that we've done something more than just consumed 47 minutes, precious minutes from your own precious life. I want to encourage everybody, if you would please, to make a pledge to take action based on our time together. And whatever that is, if you're willing to take the pledge, again, would you just jot down in the chat box? We would love to see and know how you want to make your life different as a result of spending some time together. And so anyhow, with that, Aaron, any other thoughts that you want to have on the pledge to act before we go to some things that are coming up, and then eventually circle back around to ask about some top takeaways?
Yeah. I'm wearing my We Defy t-shirt today. We Defy is a nonprofit organization. And to tell you about it, I want to tell you about Charlie. Charlie is a beast of a man. He's a warrior. He enlisted in the United States Army, learned how to go to battle, how to jump out of airplanes, and he did that. And in the midst of battle, he ended up losing his legs, somewhere in between his hip and his knee, lost both of his legs. I met Charlie when he walked into a jiu-jitsu gym, and I watched Charlie take off his prosthetic legs and jump onto the mats with some gear on. Later that afternoon, we ended up grappling together. And if you've never grappled a guy without legs, it's not as simple as it sounds. I'm a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and At one point, Charlie tapped me out. He submitted me, and he's just a beast of a guy. What happened when Charlie became a disabled vet was he had much of his identity stripped away from him. What does a warrior do when he can no longer go to war? What happens with an injury like that? Well, I can tell you what happens. Depression happens. PTSD happens. Um, it's a downward spiral into a dark place. And what We Defy Foundation does is they help vets fight depression, PTSD. They help disabled vets find that warrior spirit within them by means of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They pay for some gear to get the guys on the mat. They pay tuition for a guy to train for up to 12 months. And it's a wonderful organization, something I'm passionate about, something I like to support. I'm a mentor and an ambassador for We Defy. And I share that with you because that story communicates the heart of the organization. And again, that's taking the pledge to act. Share the story, share those times where you get to interact with people who are blessed by the mission that's being fulfilled. And I look at Charlie and man, he was full of life. He had even when, of course, when he's choking me out and tapping me out, he had a smile on his face, but that blood, sweat, and tears, he had that warrior spirit within him revived. And I was happy to be a part of that. So share your stories, take, sometimes it might seem like a risk or a little bit of vulnerability, but share from your heart. I want to encourage you to do that. And I want to share a little bit from my heart. Here's some things coming up. If you're in the Kansas City area, we're doing another training like this. It's live. It's a lunch and learn, and we're talking about campaign readiness. So if you're getting ready for a campaign or thinking about it, it'd be a great lunch and learn to go to. We're going to have some classic Kansas City barbecue there for lunch. It's in Johnson County at the Olathe YMCA. One of our nonprofits is hosting it. So if you're in the Kansas City area, put that on your calendar. I talked about the Asking Academy earlier. We have some of those coming up. The Express is June 14th and 15th. Those are virtual live option on the Zoom platform. If you want to up your fundraising game, specifically when it comes to major donor solicitation and conversation, Asking Academy Express is perfect for individuals. We also have the Asking Academy Classic. This is our complete comprehensive program, 5 months for the organization. It's great for teams, both board and staff. And that's it peaks. We have 2 on-site days on July 26 and 27. We need to start talking about that now. If you're interested in that, bringing your team or your organization to the Asking Academy to completely revolutionize how you approach fundraising, especially with the major and mega gifts. So if you want more information on those, just type Asking Academy in the chat box. I'll follow up with you later today. Be happy to just begin the conversation with those 2 things. And we have another 47-minute webinar coming up. We have this one we haven't scheduled, so I'll email out some information on that when we pick the day and time. If you aren't following us on social media, I'll actually post this in the chat box. I'll put make sure I got it right there. I'll put our LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll communicate that on social media. If you would like to follow us there, we'll email that out as well. But we'll continue to do that. As far as a topic, we have a list of 100 different topics we want to choose. But if there's anything that you or your organization would like to hear from us on any topics, feel free to suggest those, and we'll gladly tailor a webinar for you and your organization. We'd be happy to do that. So again, feel free to drop that in the chat box or shoot us an email. It is 10:42.
Or connect on LinkedIn or any of the social media. We'd love to hear directly from you.
We got about 5 minutes left, so we wanted to just do a little bit of Q&A or Q&R, question and answers, or question and responses. I believe everyone is muted right now, so if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away when it comes to storytelling or any other type of leadership, fundraising, counsel, and resource development. And let's just have a little bit of conversation right now.
Yeah, so we're going to take a couple of minutes on this. Like Aaron said, if you have a question, raise your hand. If nobody has a question, then we get to pick who to pick on. And Larry, I see that smile, so it might be you. Who wants to go first? We'll start with volunteer, and then we can go to voluntold if need be. Anybody have a thought, question, or comment?
The 6 steps was great.
Oh, thanks, Philip.
Yeah, the 6 step was great. Thank you.
I feel like you're taking some steps. Is that what I'm seeing?
That's exactly right.
Oh, love it.
That's the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
Hey, where can we get that PDF of that document, that one pager you had?
Send me a private chat, or if you're comfortable just dropping your email in the chat, I can email that to you today. We also have another, we didn't have time to get into this, but a huge we have this in PDF form. Kent, you want to talk about this a little bit? And I can also email this to the group as well in PDF.
Yeah, so Tom Ahern, A-H-E-R-N, brilliant, world-class donor communications. What Aaron just showed you is an ebook, 20 questions for donor communication. It's a 20-question quiz. And like you said, we're going to make that available to you afterwards. But I would, here's another challenge. I'd challenge you to take the quiz and then check the answers, and then go back and, what is that? I don't know, maybe a 40 or 50 page ebook. But Tom unpacks the answers to each of those questions, and would really encourage you to jump into that, because his stuff is so good. We're just a couple minutes away from wrapping up. I want to ask everybody, if you will, go to the chat box now and put in one thing that you'd say is today's most important point. It may be affirmation. And here's what I'm doing so well, and we've underscored it. Type that in there. On the other hand, maybe there's something that you feel like you can take away and put to use today, tomorrow, whether it's in your work, in your fundraising, or in your personal or community life. One thing that you can take away that you feel like is really helpful. Shelley said she likes the 6-step recipe. Paula, the practice, even though it can be unfun, boy, isn't that the truth? Probably one of the most painful things I had was I was videoed in the story, and man, you talk about getting hammered over the head. Philip says the importance of storytelling. Yeah, excellent. Let's see, we got another. Eileen says people want numbers, however they remember stories. Yeah, how much more memorable is story data when we wrap it in a story than when we tell it by itself? Yeah, okay, Peggy, 22 times, you bet.
Right.
The guidance. We've got 30 seconds left, Aaron. Where do we need to go with these last 30 seconds on our 47 minutes?
Well, I want to express gratitude to everyone who took time out today. So thank you for joining us. We hope this has been of value and to you and your organization as well. So definitely want to say thank you. And man, if there's anything we can do to bring more stories fulfilled to your organization, let us know. We'd be happy to help out.
Absolutely. Thanks for enriching our lives by spending these 47 minutes together. Hope we get a chance to connect again soon. In the meantime, as Aaron asked, please connect with us on social media. We'd love to see your stories and help share your stories around the world. And with that, say goodbye for now.
47. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Great. Catch you guys next time.